Good morning, friends, and welcome to a little hangout with me for the weekend vlog. It is very overcast today, but it is Saturday, so that means I still want to go out and have a little bit of a good time, you know? So I've convinced Blair that today we should head out and like go get brunch together. And also it is Love Your Bookshop Day here in Australia, which basically is just a day to like encourage people to get out and support their local indie bookshops. Now, obviously I work at an independent bookshop, but my closest indie bookshop is actually one that I do not work at. So I thought it would be nice to go and support my local indie bookshop today, see if I can pick up a book or two. Any excuse for book shopping, really, let's be honest. It's really close by one of my favorite cafes that does amazing bagels. It's also very close to a pretty big dog park, and Ollie doesn't get the opportunity to roam off leash all that often, so I thought we could make a bit of a day of it, you know? Books, bagel, and a dog park visit. Sounds like a great day to me. I do also actually have to finish editing my Babel reading vlog though. It's supposed to go up tonight, and I still have a lot of work left on it to do, so I'll definitely have to get stuck into that when we get home. Then I also want to finish the book that I've been reading today if I can. It's Chai Time at Cinnamon Gardens. This recently won the Miles Franklin here in Australia, and it is our current Blossom Book Club pick for September. I know it's October. We're running a little bit late. I'm running a little bit late. And even though this title and this cover look very cutesy, it's actually pretty harrowing, to say the least. Some of it is set in like a cute little old folks home, and we get to know some of these elderly people, but we're also learning about a lot of their history, and a lot of it is taking place in Sri Lanka, and some of these people are refugees, are Tamil refugees. So I mean, it's heavy, but so far I am actually quite liking it. It's just that I have other books that I'm really looking forward to getting to, so I don't want to like get stuck on this book for too long. One of those books actually is The Golden Spoon, which is a pretty new release. It's a mystery, and like the premise is basically it's the Great British Bake Off, but bakers start dying. And if you've watched any of my vlogs this year, you will know that I'm a little bit obsessed with the Great British Bake Off. And I have also been trying to read a few more kind of like fun mysteries. So I mean, this just sounds perfect. So I think after I finish Chai Time, which, you know, as I mentioned, is a little bit heavier, it'll be nice to just have a bit of a silly mystery, you know? Anyway, I'm excited about heading out today. This vlog is going to be like a casual hang out with me vlog. Haven't done one in a little while, but I am also reading a lot more than I was earlier in the year. So hopefully there'll be lots of book chat in this video too. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I even have a book haul to share with you later. But anyway, that's enough chatting. I'm going to head off and get Ollie in her cute little jumper because, well, one, it's cute, but also it is a bit fresh today. And then we're just gonna have a really nice day. High five? You're so done with me, aren't you? Let's go.
There is only one of you, only one of me. There's a million of those who won't let us be, but they're not gonna see me bleed. Cause baby, I got you. I've been beaten to the ground, dragged across the dirt. I've been scared to live cause some people never learn, but they're not gonna watch me burn. Cause baby, I got you. Here's to new beginnings and a better life. Here's to dancing underneath the disco lights. They can try but they can never take me down. Cause I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid to love, not afraid to.
So we are back at home. We had a lovely little outing, didn't we? I did pick up a book. I was hoping to pick up a couple because like it is Love Your Bookshop Day. And there were definitely some books there that I was vaguely interested in, but a lot of them were lit fic. And as we know, I haven't been reading a lot of lit fic lately. And if I'm going to read lit fic, I already have plenty of books that I bought in the previous few years that I still need to get to. So I didn't really want to add to my list in terms of lit fic. So what I was more looking for was like some genre fiction. Let's be real. I was looking for some fantasy, and every single independent bookshop is different. The Chestnut Tree Bookshop definitely does lean more lit fic than genre fiction. So their fantasy, like they do have a fantasy section, but like there wasn't a lot of stuff there that I haven't already decided I'm not interested in or that I don't already own. But they did have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and it was 40% off, which does make me feel a little bit better because like obviously when I'm shopping at another bookshop, they're always in the back of my mind, no matter how much I want to support that bookshop, I know that as a bookseller, I could get a very steep discount if I were just to order it through work. But anyway, this is a book that I have had recommended to me several times. I know people love it and people love Naomi Novik, but I've never read anything by her before. So rather than walking out empty-handed, I decided to pick this up for a total bargain. And I mean, is this historical fantasy? I think it is. I think it's got those vibes anyway. I think this is kind of like fairy tale retelling, isn't it? I clearly don't know a lot about this book, but like I said, I have had it recommended by you and other people in my life as well many a time, or more generally Naomi Novik, and I don't know, I figured maybe it's about time that I get around to trying her out at the very least. Now, even though it's already after 2 o'clock, I do have plenty of other things on my agenda for today. I'm just chilling with a heat pack and a cup of tea for a few moments. But I think the main thing I need to get done today, my top priority, is definitely finishing editing my Babel reading vlog, because it is due to go up tonight. Now, this has been a massive project. It was voted on by my patrons about a month ago for me to read as my big book challenge. So I've been filming and putting together like a spoiler-filled reading vlog where I talk about my thoughts and discuss the themes and everything. And I suppose, hopefully, in an ideal world, you would have already seen it. It will come out before this video. I had so much footage for this reading vlog. Honestly, making this video is taking me a lot longer than reading the book did. Even though I had somewhat mixed feelings on Babel, I did really enjoy the process of reading it, and like I said in the video, I enjoyed the dialogue I got to have as a reader with the book while I was reading it. And it just made me think a lot about a lot of different things. So I had a lot of thoughts and opinions that I wanted to talk about. So it is going to be a long video. After I did my first kind of cut through of everything, it was about an hour and a half long. I've done a couple more cut throughs and I've managed to get it down to 55 minutes. But now I need to kind of go back through, make sure the cuts are all neat, and kind of add any extra bits and pieces like text on the page, my little like kind of progress tracker that I like to put in for reading vlogs. Anyway, that is the big thing that I want to get done today, and that will definitely take me many hours. So I want to get stuck into it like this afternoon. And then of course I do also want to finish Chai Time at Cinema Gardens. I feel like this is the kind of book where I might really love it, but I don't want it to linger too long, or I feel like I'll get frustrated with it. So I'm gonna finish this tea, gonna get stuck into editing, and then hopefully we'll have some time for reading this evening. Oh, and later I want to show you some of the books that I've gotten lately, because I've got quite a few new books. It's not really enough to do another haul. I don't really want to do like a whole dedicated haul video, because we already had one of those quite recently. But, you know, it being my birthday, I did get a couple of books for my birthday. And then also, I don't know, man, but I just kind of like convinced myself that I'm allowed to buy a bunch of books around my birthday. And I did manage to get quite a few books secondhand and on like very steep discounts recently. And a big box of those books arrived yesterday. So I'm excited to go through them because they're still sitting in the box out in the living room. I haven't opened it up yet. I'm sure we'll also go for a walk and stuff this afternoon as well. So, I mean, hopefully I will have finished editing by then, but I don't know. I'll check in with you at some point anyway. And welcome to Sunday. My hair is air drying at the moment because Blair and I went to the pool this morning so I could do some of my hydro exercises. Hydro is going really well. I have an appointment with like a physio who like hops in the pool with me and helps me out every week. But I've also been trying to get to the pool at least like 2-3 times a week by myself as well, just to kind of help the recovery along. Anyway, last night I did manage to finish my Babel video. It took me even longer than I thought it was going to. I didn't end up finishing it until about 9 o'clock. It was definitely a big project, that video and reading that book. I just had so many thoughts, and I did have like 2 hours, maybe even more than 2 hours worth of footage of me talking about the book. So I edited it down as best I could. I got it to about 52 or 53 minutes, I think. So there was definitely much more I could have and I did say about the book, but you know, I wanted to keep the video somewhat a reasonable length, but it was a really thought-provoking read, and it was quite fun trying to put at least kind of like my main points and my main thoughts into a video for you. And I'm actually really excited now that I'll be able to go back and watch some of my favorite YouTubers who have done video reviews on Babel. I haven't watched any of them because obviously I wanted to read the book myself, and I knew it was one of those books that, you know, you read and you get opinions about. So I wanted to be able to read it myself before I listened to what everybody else was thinking. At least they're detailed reviews. I've watched kind of like wrap-ups and stuff where people are talking about it, but when they're kind of going into the spoilers and the nitty-gritty of their thoughts and opinions, I'm so excited I get to watch all of those now. Like I said in the video, I think it's just such a good conversation starter. So I'm excited to finally like get to listen in on what everybody's been saying for the last year and a half or however long the book's been out. I'm always so behind with new releases, aren't I? Speaking of new releases that I'm behind on, I've been reading Chai Time at Cinnamon Gardens by Shankari Chandran. As I mentioned, this won the Miles Franklin, which is the major kind of literary award here in Australia. And I was hoping to smash it out last night, but partly because of how long the Babel video took me to finish, but also how freaking heavy this book is. I need to keep taking breaks while I'm reading it. I remember when this book first came out, I saw it at the library and I did just think the cover was really sweet, and I assumed that this was kind of like a cozy book. But when it won the Miles Franklin, I did see people talking about how like the cover and the way that it's been positioned by the publisher really don't match the content. So I was expecting it to be heavier than I'd first thought, you know, when I first saw the book. But it is so much heavier even again. I think it's important, and I'm so happy that a book like this has gotten so much attention through the Miles Franklin Award. I don't know all of the details of like Sri Lanka and Tamil history, but I was kind of friendly with a Tamil refugee when I first got into socialist politics when I moved to Melbourne. And so since then I have had a strong awareness that a lot of refugees who Australia houses in forced detention, sometimes offshore, sometimes onshore, a lot of them are Tamil. Probably the most well-known example would be the Biloela family, who, I don't know, maybe you would remember if you've been following me on Instagram for a few years. Several years ago, me and a bunch of people, we went to the airport to try and stop the deportation of the Biloela family in the middle of the night. They were taken to Christmas Island that evening, and they were there for months before they were finally brought back to Australia. Australia for quite a long time now has had a very strict policy of not allowing refugees who seek asylum via boat to Australia to settle here. And a lot of the folks that we house in detention today, some of whom have been there for years, a lot of them are Tamil. And they are recognised as legitimate refugees, but because they came by boat, Australia refuses to allow them to settle here. It's fucked up. So, like, Tamil refugees seeking asylum in Australia is like a very common and serious issue that I think a lot of Australians just don't know a lot about. So that's why I was really interested in reading this book. It's because it's something I already care about, although I don't know as much as I should know about it. But also I think many Australians know even less than we should. And so the fact that, you know, our major literary award went to a book that is exploring that history, I was keen to give it a read. And so even though most of the book present day is set in Australia, we get a lot of flashbacks to several characters and their experiences in Sri Lanka before they came to Australia. So it's hard. It's really hard stuff to read. And then on top of that, in the present day situation, like they're experiencing a whole bunch of racism and harassment and hate crimes as well, which in a way did kind of feel a little bit inspired maybe by the Cronulla riots. And this book, it's very on the nose. It's very clear with its messaging and like the parallels between Tamil experience in Sri Lanka and dispossession and racism here in Australia. And it's powerful stuff. It's hard to read, it's important, and I'm glad a lot more Australians are being exposed to this history and these stories. I think it's definitely worth a read, but check out the trigger warnings before you dive in and take your time with it. So this is my current book club book over on my Patreon, and we're having like our live chat tomorrow. I'm honestly not sure how many of the people in the book club will have picked this up or who would have managed to get through it, because yeah, it was a lot. As I mentioned, I do have The Golden Spoon, which I've been thinking about getting stuck into. And I do have the audiobook for this. I borrowed it from the library. I've only got a couple of days left on it. So I think maybe this might be my next book. I haven't actually heard a lot about this. I remember hearing about the premise, that it was like Bake Off but make it murder mystery. and I was immediately sold. I'm hoping that this is rompy and campy, because to me, if you're gonna make a murder mystery based off Bake Off, it needs to be rompy and campy. If it's taking itself too seriously, I'm not interested. So I'm hoping this can be a little bit of like a chill, good time for me after that very powerful but very heavy read. For now though, we are actually due to meet my parents. We're going for kind of like a mid-afternoon dessert. It's like not dinner, it's not lunchtime. I don't know what we're doing, but we're eating a bunch of yummy food. So there's your book update. Now let's go eat some waffles.
You know they say we're just animals. What animal are you? The one who stays or the one who runs away like a prey? You cannot hide it, I'm watching you go back and forth like a creature in a zoo, unsure what you ought to do. Now I'm telling you, you're a dog looking good in the color, so good in the color.
Hello friends and welcome to Monday. I've actually already had a pretty busy morning. I started at 10 a.m. with a live chat with my patrons, chatting about our book club book. It was a good little chat and I actually really enjoyed, I don't know, it felt like a little bit of a debrief after reading this. For October, This Is How You Lose the Time War is going to be our book club book. I'm very excited about it. I've been wanting to read it for so long. Then immediately after that at 11, I had my monthly psychologist appointment. But last night, I actually read two books last night. To be fair, one of them was a tiny, adorable graphic novel. I read Dewdrop by Kay O'Neill. Kay O'Neill is the author of the Tea Dragon Society, which I'm obsessed with. It's one of my favorite things ever. And so since I read that not too long ago, I've been making my way through Kay O'Neill's back catalogue. And I ordered Dewdrop. It came in last week, and it's probably like the youngest of the graphic novels by Kay O'Neill that I've read so far. Like, it is a graphic novel, but it's kind of like picture book age, I would say. And it's basically just a very cute story about an axolotl and a turtle and a few other sea creatures who are like competing in this event. And they all are reminded by this lovely axolotl Dewdrop that the main thing is that they have fun and they try their best. It's very cute, very sweet. It literally took me like 5 or 10 minutes to read, but I loved every second of it. Then I did read The Golden Spoon, and I actually finished it all last night. It was a very, very quick read. I mean, obviously I had the audiobook to help me out, but I think regardless, it's just one of those things that you can get through in a sitting or two. And I wouldn't say that I had a bad time with it. If you're going to ask me if it was good though, I don't know that I could tell you that it is. I think it started off quite promising. We got introduced to 6 contestants for Bake Week. It's kind of like the equivalent of Bake Off. And Betsy Martin is basically our stand-in for Mary Berry, although it is set in America, not England. I did enjoy like the first kind of half of the book, I would say, getting to know the 6 contestants and why they had entered Bake Week. They all had different motivations and things they wanted to get out of it. I enjoyed getting to know Betsy and the other host, Archie, and, you know, some of the kind of cast for the show. And I did like how there were some suggestions that maybe like there was a little bit of sabotage going on, you know, like switching out the sugar for the salt, for example. And I was kind of hoping that like the sabotage and like ultra competitive nature was going to be the thing that was like leading to potentially some murders. But that's not what happened. And honestly, like the murder, we don't even really find out about the murder until like honestly right towards the end. So while I enjoyed the setup, I do feel like the actual murder mystery part of the book was kind of rushed and it just wasn't as satisfying by the end as I hoped it would be. So I don't think that this is a book I would rate particularly highly. I don't think it's going to be a book that I'm recommending to anyone in particular. You're certainly not going to get a strong recommendation from me anyway, but it was a pretty easy, mindless way to spend an evening. So I'm not mad about it, you know? So as I mentioned, it's been a pretty busy day already, but I've got more on this afternoon. I'm meeting Mum for coffee in about 15 minutes. And then we do have to take little Olly to the vet. She's kind of had ear infections on and off all year. And I don't know that she has an ear infection now, but she certainly seems like uncomfortable with something to do with her ear. So we're going to take her in to get checked out and see if there's anything wrong or if there's anything we can do to make her just a little bit happier. And as for reading, I honestly haven't decided what I'm going to read next. I do know that I need to get stuck into some kids books and some YA, especially in the lead up to Christmas. I feel like I'm a little bit behind on the new releases and being able to hand sell them. The only other book that I know I need to get to sometime in the near future is Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro, because my patrons have just voted on this to be my next big book challenge to read. But I mean, I only just finished Babel like 6 or 7 days ago, so I'm not sure I'm emotionally ready to dive into something this big quite yet. But anyway, I think that's something we can figure out this evening. Right now, I need to go put my shoes on and get ready to go have coffee with Mum. Do a wave or something?
Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't have to.
No, I do. I'm just so tired.
When I saw you over there, I wasn't sure. Now I'm feeling something I haven't before. Look at us now dancing now, skin to skin. If you keep this up, then I'll let you in, 'cause you have a way with me like no one else. Yeah, you almost make me fall in love. Yeah, you got me hypnotized under your spell. I know I'll go home with you tonight. Oh, wanna get you closer to my body. Wanna feel your hands all over me. Gotta make
Yes, it is another wild hair day. Welcome to Tuesday. I had hydrotherapy with my physio this morning at the pool, which obviously means I then get very wet hair and have to wash it, and then it ends up doing its own thing. Hello, can I help you? I've also finished a book today. I listened to an audiobook that was available for free this week. So I thought we could chat about that. And then also I will finally give you that book haul I've been promising this whole video. So the audiobook that I listened to is The Voice to Parliament by Thomas Mayo and Kerry O'Brien. This is just a really little handbook that came out a couple of months ago. It's come out in the lead up to the Voice vote referendum. And I've decided long ago that I'm going to be voting yes, so I never got around to picking this book up, but it's currently available for free on Audible. And then on top of that, Readings, the bookshop that I work at, is also giving the rest of our copies away for free this week in the lead up to the vote this weekend. And I couldn't decide what else to read today, and when I saw that it was free, I thought, why not? Why not sit down and take a listen? And to be perfectly honest, the other reason I didn't read this book earlier was because Thomas Mayo and a lot of people associated publicly with The Voice at this point are more moderate activists, I suppose, and I definitely have been more involved with and align more politically with a lot of people who are talking about a progressive no at the moment. I know there are plenty of Indigenous people with many different reasons for choosing to vote no. A big one is, of course, that they just don't acknowledge the Constitution and the state of Australia as legitimate. And the Uluru Statement of the Heart was very clear. Voice, treaty, and truth. All three, equally important. And Albo and a lot of the politicians at the moment seem very focused on just one, as if we don't really need to think about the other two. And everything I say from here on out is not to negate any of that. As a settler, I have decided to vote yes, primarily because the majority of Aboriginal people are in support of The Voice. But even if we get a resounding yes vote and we get The Voice enshrined, like, it is absolutely not the end of the road for Aboriginal rights and resistance. Treaty and truth absolutely next on the agenda, along with reparations and land rights. And I suppose actually I'm just realizing that this video is probably going to go up on the night of the referendum. So I guess I just want to say to any settler Australians who are watching who voted yes today, if you're not already, I really hope that this is the beginning of you getting involved in Aboriginal resistance. If you've never been to an Invasion Day rally, I hope I see you next year. If you don't already pay the rent and you have the means to, I definitely encourage you to check that out too. It's something I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years and I'm committed to doing for as long as I'm earning money. There are lots of grassroots organisations throughout Australia, so make sure you're following them on social media and that you take any opportunity to get involved. In the same way that the 1967 referendum, in the same way that the apology to the stolen generation, none of those were endpoints. They were all steps along this very long journey that we need to be committed to. Anyway, those are my views, just in case you were wondering. I suppose this book, I think it's quite punchy. It's very short, very easy to read. The audiobook is great. It's narrated by both Thomas Mayo and Kerry O'Brien. And honestly, although it was definitely a book that was attempting to like convince I think, those kind of more borderline voters, those uncertain voters. It also was very direct in its language, and it was more progressive than I was expecting it to be. It was explicitly calling out white supremacy and our history of white supremacy in this country, and how we as a country have never had a true reckoning with our history. So I'm really happy that I read it, and I think it's a great resource. Now, let's get to chatting about all of these books that I bought myself lately. Actually, firstly, I'll just quickly show you the 2 books that Blair bought me for my birthday, which was a couple of weeks ago now. He got me The Master of Gin and Ordinary Monsters, which I know I've already spoken to you about, but those were the 2 books that I got for my birthday. And then, as I mentioned, because it's my birthday, I sort of gave myself permission to buy myself a bunch more books, because why not? So most of the books that I have in here are secondhand, but a few of them are remainders. So let's take a look, shall we? The first one is The Best of All Possible Worlds by Karen Lord, and honestly, it is Literature Science Alliance's fault that I bought this. Recently, they've made a bunch of videos about how much they love this author and this book, and I don't know, I was excited by their enthusiasm. So when I saw this book for a total bargain, I really wanted to give it a go. Okay, this next book I honestly might regret having picked up. I mean, look at the size of it. Look at the size of it. What was I thinking? Honestly, the only reason I picked it up is because it was secondhand. It was an absolute bargain. It's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. Like, this book is literally 1,000 pages long. If I manage to read it, and I stress if, this will be the longest book I have ever read, and probably ever will. Now, you might know that I didn't really like Piranesi all that much. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't like enthralled the way that so many people were. But given that I've been on a historical fantasy kick lately, a couple of people, they did ask me if I'd thought about reading this book. And so when I was just kind of like perusing the Bookgrocer website and I saw it secondhand for a bargain, I don't know. In the moment, I thought it was a good idea. And now that I'm looking at how big it is, I'm having second thoughts, but here it is. It's already in my life. Next up was a book that was just on the website and looked interesting. This is a remainder, so it's not secondhand, and it is The Rose Daughter by Maria Lewis. This is another historical fantasy kind of thing, and I think it is part of a series, but I saw on GoodReads people talking it being about like a standalone as well, like you can read it as a standalone. And all of the reviews were just like rave reviews. Everybody was talking about how compelling it was and how they couldn't put it down. And I think it is about a woman who is an unlikely or reluctant hero in some kind of situation. That's about all I know. Then I did get a couple of books by the same author. I got Radiance by Catherine M. Valente and Deathless by Catherine M. Valente. I honestly don't know a lot about either of these 2 books. I picked them up because after reading The Past is Red by this author last year, I just want to try more of her work. This one was definitely secondhand. It's a hardcover, and I'm not sure about the other one. Next up, this book was definitely a remainder. It's this lovely hardback edition of Dark Earth by Rebecca Stott. This was a book that came up when I was looking for historical fantasy. That simple. This one is set in the 6th century, and apparently it takes us back to the very founding of Britain to explore the experience of women trying to find kin in a world ruled by blood ties, feuds, and men in a quest of a nation. And then finally, we've got Hannah Gadsby's memoir. This is 10 Steps to Nanette. This was a secondhand book. Of course, Hannah Gadsby, I'm sure a lot of you will know her. She's an Australian comedian. She's queer. She's autistic. And this is her memoir. I've heard it's like equal parts harrowing and hilarious. My friend Nick and I actually went and saw her live one time a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic, I think. And I love her. I love her. So again, when I saw her memoir pop up for like $8, I said yes. I said yes, and I added to cart. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me for a few days, chatting books, walking around, eating food. As always, a big thank you goes to my patrons over on Patreon, and especially big thank you to Livia, Lynette Brown, and Marie. I will chat to you in the comments and in the next video. Until then, happy reading and much love. Bye. Bye. Olly wave. Yes, goodbye.